Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Forest fires are raging out in the west. A record-breaking heat wave continues in the east. A drought continues in the Midwest. But instead of focusing this committee's attention on managing fire risks or addressing the man-made climate change, we're spending more of this committee's time to send a vacant message to the oil industry with this legislation. Today I decided that I was not going to offer any amendments to the bill under consideration. I felt to do so was to acknowledge to some extent its legitimacy and to validate the markup. I do want to say a few words, Mr. Chairman, about the legislation. Last month, the Interior Department released its 5-year leasing plan for the Outer Continental Shelf. This is a routine action directed by the Outer Continental Shelf's Lands Act, and the first step in the process we use to grant access to oil resources off our shores. It requires no congressional approval, but here we are marking up the majority's replacement plan. I think the majority had such a good time repealing the Affordable Care Act for the 33rd time. They figured this would be a good tactic to try in a different arena, and here we are. By expanding opportunities for renewable energy across federal land, including several exciting solar projects in Arizona, and offering this plan, the department has taken seriously the President's goal of an all-of-the-above approach to energy development on public lands and offshore. Many people that I've spoken to about the plan find it nowhere near the restrictive nightmare that's going to be portrayed by my colleagues on the other side of the dais, but that has not stopped them from offering the alternative plan for the Outer Continental Shelf. They insist that we accelerate the timetable for lease sales, add new areas up for sale that do not even have proven resources, including Bristol Bay in Alaska and off the coast of Southern California. It's always interesting to watch the majority allow their desire to give handouts to big oil run counter to their commitments to states' rights. If this bill were to become law, areas that have previously been deemed off-limit to oil development by their respective governors would be put up for lease. I can see by one of the amendments offered this morning that even some members on the other side are concerned about the bill and what it would mean for their district, their states, and the states that they represent. I'd like to remind everybody the department's proposed final plan offers up for lease 75% of undiscovered, technically recoverable oil and gas resources in the Outer Continental Shelf. That plan only covers the next 5 years. The department has delayed some leases in Alaska, Chukchi, and the Beaufort Seas and the Cook Inlet so that necessary and vital and important scientific environmental reviews can be completed. And that is a prudent step after the biggest environmental disaster in the nation's history, where we have still failed to make many of the regulatory changes recommended by the National Commission on the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill and offshore drilling. And I commend the department and the President for trying to meet the safeguards and benchmarks that we do have in place. Again, this is not enough for my colleagues on the majority. They insist we speed up and condense the environmental review process and offer up leases in areas without existing infrastructure or proven resources. According to the Department of Interior, more than 70% of the millions of acres of federal land under lease to the oil industry are inactive. That amounts to 43 million acres that are currently leased but not producing any oil. Does this industry really need more wiggle room to exploit America's taxpayers' resources? We need to use our time addressing climate change, forest fires, renewable energy, and other issues that really matter to the American people, not coddling the oil industry. Despite a recent Pew poll which shows that 52% of Americans believe that developing non-oil resources are the most important energy priority for the country, this majority is only committed to an oil above all approach to energy policy. With the certainty of the election of President Obama, as this 5-year plan proceeds, we will have a balanced, pragmatic, and responsible energy development policy without jeopardizing areas that in the past have been the prerogative of states and environmental concerns and have been off limits. With that, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time, and I yield back.
Time the gentleman has expired. Is further discussion on the bill?